Okay, let's kick off. It's a nice, bright, and sunny day here in Cape Town. I'm Pippi Yates, co-founder of Turn, and welcome to April Town Hall. Thanks for being here. You know, we always so grateful of the diversity of this audience, whether you're here in Africa with me or in Asia or Latin America and beyond. Is really a privilege to have this conversation with the community every month. And this month it was World Health Day, which is celebrated every year on April the 7th, to really shine a spotlight on some of the most pressing health issues affecting the globe. And this year's theme was Healthy Beginnings, Hopeful Futures, which invited us all to take a look at how we're supporting maternal and newborn health specifically. And at Turn, we're super proud to support many maternal and child health organizations doing incredible work, both in the private and public health sector. But to name a few, kind of Mom Connect, the team at Reach Digital Health and the Department of Health in South Africa, the Alman team with Kilkari in India with the health department there, Neura Health, who's doing incredible maternal health work as well, and in India, and Help Mum in Nigeria. Some of the biggest maternal health programs globally are part of this community, and we really value your work in driving that agenda forward. But you know, supporting the health and well-being of children is not only for their earliest moments, but throughout their journey as they kind of learn and grow. And when children are healthy, they're much more likely to thrive in school, to engage in their communities, to grow into much more resilient adults. And far too many are currently held back by preventable illnesses, lack of access to care, and systems that really don't reach them where they are. And that's why we're super excited today about our guest speaker, Lani Hackett from Healthy Learners, which is an incredible organization working at the intersection of health and education to make school a place where children can access the care that they need. And their work is a super powerful example of how technology, partnerships, and local leadership can come together to improve children's health at scale. But we also know that this conversation today is happening against the backdrop of growing global uncertainty, political shifts, funding challenges, and increasing pressure on the development sector. It's a lot, but there's one thing that we've learned throughout this journey and as being part of this community is that when we focus on the impact we can have together, we stay grounded really in our purpose and the possibility of what's coming. So today, let's dive into this conversation. First, we'll be exploring new community members we're welcoming, and then we'll dive into the conversation with Lani Hackett. But let's keep on building a healthier, more hopeful future for this next generation of children. So I'm going to hand over to my wonderful colleague, Indrani, to take us forward.
Thank you, Pippa. Hi, everyone. I'm Indrani, and I lead customer success for India and APAC. I'm based out of Hyderabad in India. I'm really excited to welcome and introduce the new community members who join our Chat for Impact community. First up, we have Yellow Africa. They're a digital telecom and mobile financial services company, and they empower underserved communities across Africa with affordable access and connectivity. Then we have Chatak, which is an AI-powered education platform which delivers personalized interactive learning through WhatsApp, making education accessible and effective for, again, underserved communities worldwide. We then have Plus Costa Rica. This organization identifies, selects, and trains the new generation of political leaders in Costa Rica. They promote democracy and ethical leadership by training future leaders in communication, negotiation, public policy, as well as accountability. We then have DECIM Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement LATAM is scaling. We have 2 new countries that are now part of our community, Uruguay as well as Ecuador. For those of you who are new to Junior Achievement Global, this is an organization with one of the world's largest youth-serving nonprofits, delivering hands-on immersive learning in entrepreneurship, work readiness, financial health, and they are impacting close to 17 million students annually and across 100 countries today. Then we have Mytura, which is a Nigerian health startup, and they offer an all-in-one digital platform for telemedicine, lab testing, and AI-powered health assistance, also including medical record management and aiming to make healthcare more accessible and efficient across Africa. We then go to APAC, where we have Jaipur Rugs, which is a social enterprise organization which was founded in the 1970s, but they're connecting today close to 40,000 Indian artisans, and 80% of those are women. And they're connecting them to global markets through handcrafted rugs that preserve the traditional artistry and empower communities. I want to give a special shout out to our existing organizations, Ordere, Nura Health, NOSAS, and SwipeRx. In addition to running their already scaling services, they're also adding on more services to their current platform and expanding their customer bases and geographies. Welcome all. I want to also call out this partnership we have with Fast Forward. It's a long-term partner, and they're doing a very interesting research on how nonprofits are using AI to drive impact. So this is a first-of-a-kind report that'll map AI-powered nonprofit sector and guide philanthropy's role in accelerating its growth. So if your nonprofit is using AI as part of its core solution, or applying AI to improve any internal operations, or exploring AI implementation in the near future, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to share your insights. So please participate in this survey. And by doing so, what you can do is influence future funding priorities, be considered as a case study in this report that is being put together by Fast Forward, and also an opportunity to draw, enter a draw to win a $100 Visa gift card. So we're just going to be pasting the link very quickly into the chat window. I urge you all, if you're a nonprofit that's focusing on AI this year, please share your invaluable insights. And the deadline to complete the survey is May the 16th. And with that, I'll hand over to Gustav to talk a little bit about our events.
Thanks, Indrani. Yeah, it's getting busy, conference season, and we just realized post-COVID, or I really realized how important it is to connect with people in person. And we will be attending a whole bunch of conferences in the next couple of months in Latin America, across Africa, and in Asia Pacific and in India. I think especially during this time with all these crazy changes, I think it's really useful and important to connect to each other and to help support each other and come up with new solutions. So next week, we will be in Boston attending the Harvard GEM 25 conference. So it's run by the Harvard Center for International Development, and the conference specifically is around catalyzing artificial intelligence for inclusive change. There's going to be about 100 attendees, and would really like to connect with anybody who is there. Or if you are based in Boston, would love to grab a coffee with you. We'll be there for a couple of days. We'll be speaking on a panel specifically around AI innovations in emerging economies. And a big focus for us now, increasing, is figuring out business models, how to scale these things. We can't rely on big aid anymore. And artificial intelligence is going to be a big part of that, but the business models around that is going to be really big as well. So I'll be speaking on a panel. We'll be in Boston for a couple of days. If you're there, please come and chat. There's also, just for organizations that are looking for funding, there's a research grant that's coming out. If you want to do interesting research around how to use artificial intelligence for development, and there's also seed funding available. We will obviously post to our community in our WhatsApp group. If you're not in the WhatsApp group, please ping us here. We will be posting this into this community. By the way, there's something we're going to be doing now increasingly at every town hall. we'll be talking about these type of funding opportunities and collaboration opportunities and reposting as much as we can, as Indrani did now with Fast Forward. So really looking forward to seeing any of you there. And then we'll also be in New York. We're meeting with a whole bunch of our partners that are there. If you are based out of New York, we'll be there next week. Let me know, ping us directly here or DM me on WhatsApp or email if you are in either of those cities next week. Would love to connect with you. Great. Also, just want to briefly report back. We were at Skull 2 weeks ago. It's a little bit like, it's a little bit like I guess the Skull Awards are a little bit like the Oscars of the development sector. I guess that's how it's referred to. And was incredibly cool to see Healthy Learners win the award. They in our community, and we're going to be chatting to Lonnie and Emmanuel and Megan just now. And also Community Health Impact Coalition. We've known the group for a while. We're chatting to them about working, but I think more importantly, Chic represents a whole bunch of organizations that we work with right now. As you know, they work around professionalizing community healthcare workers, and we'll talk about Healthy Learners right now. But just to give you an idea, just it was, you couldn't walk 10 meters without bumping into one of our either our partners or our collaborators. Just to give you a rough idea, we the Youth Key Awards folks were there, a partner from Arman, Girl Effect, Pinky Promise, Doug from Rippleworks, Midan, who won Skull last year. Obviously, our Reach folks were there. The Gates Foundation folks had a whole army of people, Skull Foundation folks, MCOPA, IntelliHealth, Zandiri, Youth Impact, Save Life. I mean, these were all people that we connected with, and so many of them are organizations that are currently using Turn to scale the impact. So it was just really fantastic to connect in person. But I think specifically we were super proud to see Healthy Learners win the Skull Award. I'd love to say that we've been working with them a while, but luckily they're about to launch their service. I think they just launched their service, and so really excited to talk to them a little bit about the work they're doing. But before we go on to that, I just wanted to a reflection here about Skull was that, I know a lot of our conversations are about how the development community, the challenges we face, but I personally had a whole bunch of really amazing conversations. At the same time as all these challenges are facing us, there's also incredible opportunity. And I think a realignment about how we think about impact and how we build sustainable services, and how governments in the global south can build more equitable systems that don't rely on global aid. And so I'm really positive around the work that we could do together. And I think that, I think the type of work that previously was a Skull Foundation, the way the focus worked, is going to change in the future as it should. But much more fun to talk about the work that organizations are doing. So we're going to be chatting to Lonnie, who's the founder of Healthy Learners, and about their model. And I think Megan is also here, and Emmanuel, who are working on the technical side of things of the project. And we'll talk a little bit about their background. But I think we've got a video lined up. The nice thing about Skull is when you win, you always have you always get them to make a really nice video. They're all super inspiring. So I think we'll be showing the video first, and then we'll be talking for a couple of minutes with Lonnie and team.
Quick one, Sam, you might need to exit from the presentation and start it again to see the slide.
While we're loading that, there you go.
One of the biggest challenges that we face is lack of access to healthcare for school-age children. The cost is huge.
Everything from a common cold to malaria to more severe illnesses. We know this can have a devastating impact on their learning. It can impact them psychologically, physically, and all of this happens during the one time in their life when they can receive an education.
The Ministry of Health has units for under 5, and they have a unit for adults. But the children between age of 5 and 13, they do not have anywhere to go.
My journey started over 13 years ago in 2011. I was a pre-medical student at the time and received a fellowship to travel to Zambia. I was looking at what are barriers to children's access to healthcare, particularly around HIV/AIDS.
0 + 8.
And for me, the biggest takeaway from that experience was how often I would hear how poor health was undermining the learning, the development, and the future of children.
I grew up in the village. From where I stayed to the clinic, I think it was about 15 kilometers. I got sick one day. And when I got sick, I was, as usual, sent home. Unfortunately, the condition got worse. I was taken to the hospital where I was admitted for 2 weeks. I was almost like dropping out of school because 2 weeks for me to recover was too much.
In many countries, when you're under the age of 5, you're seen as the responsibility of the health system.
And when the child is above 5, he's a responsibility of Ministry of Education. And we've seen these ministries are working in silos.
That administrative bureaucratic siloing doesn't reflect the true needs, where obviously older children continue to get sick and need access to health care.
The idea of linking the two ministries is the only way we can actually solve this problem.
Realizing that if kids aren't getting to the healthcare system, let's bring care to where they already are, in their schools.
This is where we started our journey.
Okay, so in our case study, the first thing that we're going to start with is the health assessment type. What type of illnesses do we enter in the youth acute visit?
At the heart of our model is training teachers as what we're calling school health workers or health teachers.
Does the learner have a sore throat or pain when swallowing?
All teachers are oriented to identify children that are not actually feeling okay.
Does the learner have a swollen abdomen?
If he's not looking well, then they can actually flag that learner and send them to the health room.
It basically looks like a standalone clinic at the school. That's where children know they can go to when they're unwell. It's where the health teachers are able to operate from when they're on duty.
Okay.
And it becomes a physical symbol of the program and the school's commitment to caring for the well-being and health of their children.
If the child requires a test for malaria, they do test, and if the child has malaria, the child will be actually given medication in the school.
Or if it's something more severe, anything from tuberculosis to a severe case of pneumonia to severe dehydration, where that child will then be referred to the health facility.
Ministry of Health have actually introduced what we call fast track. For the learners that are referred to the health facility, they don't join the adult queue. They actually go in front.
Over 95% of children referred to clinics report to have been successfully fast-tracked. The school then doesn't stop there. They'll follow up within 3 days to make sure the child's either better, back in school, or if not, that the child's able to receive additional care and return back to the health facility.
The school becomes now a center for linking health facility and the community.
And we've since seen, as we've scaled, the program isn't just impacting the children at those schools, but it's generating enormous amounts of data. Every single child that goes to the health room, all of that syndromic data is captured digitally. And we're able to support national health surveillance systems, so that way communities are better prepared to be able to quickly identify changes in disease trends, potential pandemics, to flag what may be early warnings of an outbreak.
8 + 4. 12.
We ensure that from the inception, the government take ownership of the program. So we engage the Ministry of Health and Education in ensuring that we build capacity for them to be the one driving the program.
But then if there are 2 lines there, the results are positive.
The impact of health services in the school. 1, you create the assurance that the school is a safe space. 2, that the children don't be afraid to talk about their health status. 3, when you have children who are healthy, they'll stay more in school. This is a big game changer in education.
We've also seen just a change in mindset, where teachers and schools, this entire community, are now caring for the whole child. That they know that their teachers aren't just there to make sure they learn and pass their exams, but really care about them as individuals.
At first we were even doubting, am I going to know how to treat children?
Whenever a child used to fall sick back then, I would struggle.
Efe chale banifingana na umfokulwala. Nijina kusukruta waise wala ikarafe amabo bangana bampanga kama babwele besa kutere ku clinic. Epo kapolera mpaka opo keshira ku school.
The training was so amazing, and now when they are not well, they will find some help from the school.
Epo chaishire chitintu chaitwafuirisha kwa abana balire ko kulofa ku school. So mwandi nitureto tira charitwafu ko chitintu ku bana.
The model is simple. It integrates easily within the school system. This last year, it was less than $1.50 per child.
This is the right time. I think we need to reach to those children in other countries that are still facing the similar challenges.
We constantly push ourselves of, are we a little bit scared? And if the answer is no, then we try to be more audacious. And if they do, then we know we're probably in the right spot.
Amazing. It's always I love this call videos. It's like at the end it was like, yeah, let's go. Let's roll it out everywhere. No, congratulations, Lonnie. That's really and to the whole team, Emmanuel and Megan, and just really fantastic, super inspiring. So just let's dig into some of the details. Obviously, we want to talk a little bit about the background. I think the video does a really nice job in showing how the model works. But what we want to talk a little bit about is just like obviously what was a unique insight, like how you got to that idea, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you're thinking about technology right now and potentially how that could scale. But maybe just to start off with, just firstly, congratulations. Fantastic that you guys won SKOL. And maybe a beginning question is like, how, apart from the money, how do you think it'll help you drive scale or scaling out to other countries? Just do you think it'll be a practical use? How are you thinking about that, and how you can potentially leverage the SKOL Award?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on. It's really great to reconnect. And I think a couple things. I think SKOL is thoughtful in partnering with organizations at a time where that kind of publicity and platform can really accelerate their work. Going into kind of receiving SKOL, we were in the midst of a national scale up in Zambia and really beginning to kick the tires and look at what expansion into other countries would look like. And so at this moment, having kind of the platform, the network, the additional connections that SKOL is helping us to be able to forge, both with funders, but also just the entire SKOL community and the broader community who are working in many of the countries that we're looking at, really does feel like a great time.
Yeah, definitely. I think the best models can always be summed up in a really simple graphic. I love that moment. You've got two circles: health department, education department becoming one. And I think you use the word, it's a simple model, but that there's a lot of complexity under that simple model. So maybe just all governments have a health department and education department, and so what was the insight here just to make these work together? It seems like a super straightforward and simple insight, but if it was that simple, then we'd see it in every country. So maybe just a little bit about like how you guys got to that idea in the first place and actually got it going. Like, how did you actually get these two ministries to work together? Is there some secret that you have?
Yeah, well, I would say it certainly didn't happen overnight. As I mentioned in the video, this journey started now almost 14 years ago. And I think, it was the collective background of myself and Ignatius that really led to many of these insights. I come from a family of educators. My mother was an elementary school teacher. My grandfather was a principal. My sister is a social worker in school. So when I traveled to Zambia, I was doing it with an academic interest in healthcare, but came with profound respect for educators. And so spending a lot of time with teachers and hearing the challenges they have and asking them, like, what do you do when a child is sick? And this frustration and concern of, well, we send a child home. We know it's not the right thing to do, but we don't know what else we can do, but we want to do more. And, I'm sure when I reflect, and I'm sure when others reflect on the teachers in our lives that had the biggest impact, it's not just what they taught us, it's that they were there, they cared, they showed up when we needed them. And for me, it was asking, how can we support this cadre of individuals that in many cases are one of the most important people in children's lives, with the tools and kind of the systems to be able to better care for the kids that are in their responsibility in class. And so that made me really obsessed with kind of, why does this challenge exist? Why isn't this age group accessing care, and potentially what could be done about it? And it was around that time that I met our co-founder, Ignatius Belongo, who was a director of a health facility with the Ministry of Health. And so for him, it was personal. He grew up in the village, as he mentioned. He experienced these challenges as a parent. He knew the impact and the influence teachers had on the lives of their children. And running a clinic, he would see every single day. You'd have your under 5 department filled with babies and their mothers, and the outpatient department filled primarily with adults. And his clinic was the first in the country to have electronic health records. And so they had data to actually show that there's this entire segment of the population that isn't accessing care at the rates that we would expect. And so, collectively, we had this simple idea, well, if kids aren't getting here, can we move that access point to where they already are in their schools? And can we leverage principles from community health as well as historical school health programs to try to kind of unite and improve collaboration across these two ministries? And then I guess I would just add, school health is by no means a new concept. I mean, it goes back to the 1980s, whether it's school nurses, deworming, immunizations. But I think what we've often seen in low middle income countries is it tends to be very vertical. You have funding, so you do HIV health education in schools, you do immunizations in schools, you do malaria, support in schools. And what we really wanted to do is kind of build on a lot of the historical foundation that these more vertical programs had done, but can we have it be much more horizontal, comprehensive, and really connect schools with the healthcare system in a much more meaningful way? And so that really was the impetus that kicked off the work that we're doing.
Yeah, I think there's something in there, and I hope there's something you can be an example, not only your own work in other countries, but I think this idea of breaking down barriers, we see that a lot in a lot of countries, and a lot of the partners that are on this call and that are partners of Turn is like ministries of health, things so specifically HIV, PEPFAR money specifically for that, NCDs, etc. But this idea that you integrate that. And the other thing I want to just point out there that I think really key there, that I didn't realize your background, the family background with teaching. And I think that's also just having respect and understanding for how the school system works to be able to do that. But having said all of that, I still think it's incredible how you managed to pull that together in one place. And I think there's something to be said for the focus you had doing in one country to make that work. And it might be worthwhile just because, like you say, school health is not new, but what you're doing is quite novel. From the teacher training to the health rooms, the buddy monitoring, the referrals to the PHCs. But the way you put that together, I think, is a little bit of the magic. I mean, do you think there's something specific you want to call out? We can't talk about like every single part of the model, but do you think there's something specific about how you pull that together that kind of just had you, because we're going to talk a little bit about your impact as well, because the fact that you're having these big impacts clearly has something to do with how all these elements work together. Do you think there's something specific that you did there that's different from what you've seen in other programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, our model has gone through many kind of evolutions over the past decade. And, when we started, the crux of it, the core was there in terms of training teachers in community health, connecting schools with the healthcare system and building referral networks. But I think part of the reason why it's been so successful is, a big part of our culture and values as an organization is our core values are humility and hunger, and we feel that those manifest in curiosity. And so every school that we're partnered with has become almost like a innovation hub, and we look at what schools are doing that may be different from others that seems to really be driving meaningful change, and then we'll test, replicate, and then institutionalize that. And so when you look at it, is a very simple concept, but how we've operationalized it and been able to make it scale has required a lot of really deliberate thought and work with our government partners and community partners. But the best ideas, they weren't ours, they came from schools. So for example, a part of the program that I personally really loved is the buddy system. So kids are put into groups of 3 to 5. I'm sure we're all in buddy groups when we were younger. And if Gustav, you're my buddy, if you're absent, the teacher will ask me, Lonnie, do you know what's wrong? If I don't, I'll check in on you after school. If I do, I'll let the teacher know. And it's just a source of information for that school. And how it was started is, when we first began, we asked schools to use their attendance tracking, something they're already doing, but rather than just entering the number, to actually follow up on kids who are absent. And we had some schools tell us, look, it's hard to follow up on 15 kids. And so one school put kids into buddy groups and said, this is a great source of information for us. We're like, well, that's a brilliant idea. Is that something that could work in other settings as well? Because as the school said, kids usually know what's wrong with their friends. And then what we've seen since then is that when you create peer support through these buddy groups, that doesn't just help get information to teachers, it creates peer support, it creates, and so we're now hearing from school, and we're evaluating our current trial, some of the kind of positive externalities of that in terms of, from reductions in bullying to improved experience within the school itself, to improved kind of health-seeking behaviors. Because you might not tell your parent or even a teacher, but you might lean over to your friend and say, hey, I'm not feeling well today, or I have this issue. And then to have that support to help kind of encourage and take you to the health room or to a health facility can really make a big difference for a child. And so I think for us, it was, picking up on those best practices that emerged organically from our schools, and then seeing how we could put structure and scale those as core parts of our program, and doing that, dozens of times. Some things worked, some things different, but then ended up creating a much more robust model. And because these were ideas that emerged from the communities themselves, I believe that's a big reason why they've successfully scaled as we've expanded the program.
Yeah, so I think it's certainly some of the elements that you're using, we've seen in other places. The fact that you leveraging the teacher, the health rooms are quite novel in the way you use that, the use of data. But I think the fact that you're leaning into the feedback loop is really fantastic. And the buddy system that's completely novel and amazing. Just that already is a fantastic insight. Just a quick question. The buddies that's a completely offline system right now, right? That's not a WhatsApp group. There's no, and they're not digitally connected. This is completely manual and offline, correct?
That's correct. So at the beginning of every year, we provide structured health lessons to the schools, and the first few lessons are kind of like maintenance for the program. So the first one will be around overview of the health room, just orienting any new children to the school. The second will be about creating buddy groups in their classes. And so kids will be paired based on folks that they are neighbors with, or that they're naturally friends with, or the teacher may have other kind of considerations in how they want to put them together. But whereas many adults at this point do have phones, we've found that many of the students, particularly younger students at our schools, may not. And so we are quite
offline first.
We're offline there.
Yeah. No, I think obviously we'd love to, and I think it's a nice segue into thinking a little bit about like how you are thinking about technology. Zambia is not, it's fairly okay in terms of digital penetration, but like you say, in any case, it's not like you can rely on school children to have digital phones, but certainly the teachers, I think, are digitized here. So a word here, I don't know if people missed here, that the scale is truly remarkable. You're in about 600 schools, you've serving about 1 million children, you've got 5,000 health workers. I think that you're basically fully at national scale already. So obviously you had to digitize some of that. So maybe nice segue now to think a little about how are you thinking about technology specifically, are you thinking about it just for efficacy, like reducing cost over time? Are you thinking about building like an operating system for how you're doing this to replicate in other countries? Just maybe, just how are you thinking about technology, and it's a good segue also to think about how you thinking about chat and using the communication technology.
Yeah, and I'll kick us off and then pull Megan, our Chief Technology Officer, and Emmanuel in a minute. But I would say, we first started integrating technology into our program in a meaningful way back in 2018. We partnered with a group called ThinkMD. Previously,
yes.
our teachers would use paper-based forms to run through branching logic to make decisions on children. What ThinkMD does, it's a clinical decision support system. So it runs through a series of questions, has an algorithm to say, suspected pneumonia or malaria, whatever it may be, and then provides specific age, weight, specific guidance and treatment recommendations. And so if it's malaria, it'll guide the teacher to run a rapid diagnostic test. If positive, it'll advise them on the treatment based on the age of that child. And so that was kind of our first foray. And I would say we did that at the time. Partly it was quality control. I mean, it was great to be able to guide teachers through a specific process with more specificity than what paper would allow. But more than anything, we felt that we had to digitize our data collection in order for us to be able to scale. And a philosophy of ours too has just been, how do we make things as easy as possible for our partners to do? And everyone hates entering data. And so let's minimize how much we require folks to enter data and instead have it be intrinsic in as they're providing a service. And so for teachers, it doesn't feel like necessarily you're entering data for the sake of monitoring the program, but rather you're screening that child. So the act of providing the service to that child also allows us to seamlessly collect that information. And that was really, that was kind of a first critical step in terms of us being able to scale our monitoring evaluation systems, and then being able to, beginning to be able to automate some of our data analysis, recommendations, and feedback. And I would say we're now at this next horizon that, as we're thinking about scale, and for us, it's not just scaling our operations, but it's transitioning those over to the government as well. So anything we're doing today, it's building that roadmap so that we're not required to do that in 3 years, 4 years from now. We've had a lot of success in that, but there's more that we still need to do to fully work ourselves out of a job. And what we've realized is, automating the data collection and the analysis is great, but we still need to get the reports to the schools. We still need to provide, touch points and feedback and support to schools, to clinics, to community members and districts. And what worked well when we were in one city, where we could do that largely based on staff, doesn't work at national scale. We can't be linearly growing our staff alongside the growth in the program. That wouldn't be feasible for the government to be able to sustain. It'd be quite expensive for us. And we also don't think it's the most effective way. And so what we're really excited about the work we're doing with you guys is, how can we not only digitize and automate a lot of the distribution of information, but improve it? So we can't, as individuals, be everywhere all at once. But can we create a system that, that allows any of our teachers or health workers to be able to access information on their terms when they require it? And so we really do see that as like a critical linchpin for us being able to scale, both to sustain the quality of our support, but also, to be able to, a good use case that we're looking at in the future is if we have a notifiable disease, can we, automate a alert to go towards a clinic to let them know that it's worth doing a follow-up to that school because it's suspected case of cholera or measles, or for a teacher that is running health education and is struggling on a particular lesson, or for us to be able to reach out. Yeah,
I love that, and sorry to interrupt you there, but I think I love how you're thinking about this idea of building technology that's frictionless, where the decision support system is actually because it's making their lives easier. People are using it, and that creates the impetus for driving it. It's not something that becomes like becomes a chore for it actually makes the teacher's life easier. And then that the fact that you've got a communication system is almost a side effect, and then allows for all these other downstream benefits and communication systems, which then, and I think that's a nice point where maybe talk a little bit about how you think now, like I know we're just starting and launching out the first test, and I don't know if Megan wants to jump in here, or Emmanuel, maybe just, to end off as like or the last question, how are you guys thinking about using this communication channel right now? So right now it's like supporting it, and then potentially, how are you thinking about scaling this, and how could it potentially help you to get into other regions or other countries? Obviously scale is one thing, but what other use cases do you see outside of the communication channel?
Yeah, Megan, or Emmanuel, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can take that. So I divide our digital stack into kind of two outputs. One is the health of the health system, and then the second is the health of the learner and the health of the child. So the health of the health system is where the Turn.io integration really matters. We're using clinical decision support to capture data on, how many encounters are happening, how many kids are being seen. We also stock commodities from the Ministry of Health. So we have routine reports that go into the ELMIS at national level, and the data goes into DHIS2. And then we have the help desk as an integrated part of that. So that's where the WhatsApp integration is planned. And that's down to very basic questions. So Lonnie doesn't always talk about how thoughtful and cool the design of the health room is, but it's actually a solarized room. So we don't have to be on grid. So we ask questions like, is the solar generator working, or is the solar power working, or are you needing to use your own money to charge the devices? Is there airtime? Is the tablet working or not? We don't expect the healthcare workers to use their own devices, so there's a shared tablet. Is the room locked at night? Have you flooded? I was in Mansa a couple of weeks ago, in Ndola, and thing that we didn't expect with climate change is that there's more snakes. So now all of a sudden they're also reporting things like, how do we deal with snake bites, which is fantastic and interesting. And then the second area that we're working,
reporting, it's a snake reporting line.
Yeah, things you never thought. And then there's also then the health of the child. So the other area that we're looking at and sort of the innovative frontier with the integration of Turn.io is for notifiable diseases. So we have these fringe diseases, cholera, schistosomiasis, Marburg, Ebola, and you can't train teachers on everything, but you can use AI and clinical decision support and clinical logic to actually provide health education in a more nuanced and responsive way that isn't heavy and bulky. So as we think of handover, we plan on using the help desk to really ensure that there's continuous visibility to those two pillars of our program, and that isn't delayed. It's efficient and in real time. Emmanuel, anything to add? Sorry, I know we're down to the last minute here.
Yes, Megan. I would add on that one of the use cases that we have is consistent and efficient support. Lonnie talked about how the model was human capital reliant, but the scale that we're moving at, that's just not quite feasible. So what would happen is that health learners would hire staff that would go into these schools and periodically support our teachers. And Gustav, from working in tech that there are different personas when it comes to tech. There are those that are tech savvy. There are those elderly teachers that are not so comfortable with using CDS, but they want to be a part of this journey. So staff would go in schools and just kind of guide them through how to navigate the platform and whatever support that they needed. So we don't want to lose that. We want to maintain touch points, and we see the platform as the means for regular touch points and quite consistent, and we can plan for those throughout, whether that means giving them a reminder to deliver a health talk, or them looking up how to perform a certain workflow, and that is something that would be on demand, especially if it's offline.
Amazing. I mean, I think Lonnie, I'm gonna give it to you to end on the grand vision, but just because it's always with these things, I wish we had like another half an hour to talk about it. I think as a last comment from me before I give it to Lonnie to close out, and thanks Megan and Emmanuel for the amazing insights. One thing from my perspective is to listen to you now, and having chatted to Lonnie last year at the scaling event at Malaga as well, and I still have this mind map, is, the way I think about it is we see organizations and we think about it as a vertical thing. So we have organizations that work in schools, and then we have organizations that work in community healthcare, and then only in NCDs or maternal healthcare. And what's super inspiring about what you guys are doing is by focusing on school health, you've also, like I said, as almost like a downstream benefit, you basically built a snake reporting system, but a school information system, which is integrated. And I think what's key and really amazing here is that it is not always the same path. We don't necessarily need to take exactly the same model and replicate it. You found a unique way to solve this problem in Zambia, and it's now happening to solve a whole bunch of other things as well. And I think that model can really scale. So just super inspiring. And thanks for just doing the amazing work that you guys are doing and being partners. And I think this community is super inspired. Lonnie, maybe close it out with like, where do you see things in the next 10 years? Where are you going to be taking this, and what can be true of everything that happens that you want to happen?
Yeah, well, thank you. And I would say, over the next 3 years, our goal is to support the government to scale across the country to 3 million children. So tripling. Took us 10 years to reach 1 million children. We want to now scale to 3 million in 3 years. That'd be roughly 70% of primary school children across the country. So near complete national scale, which when we started, that was the moonshot. Ignatius and I, that was the dream of how do we make sure kids across the country have access to this. But I think even beyond that, fundamentally, what we see is how do we expand so that we're not just caring about the health of under 5 children, which is critical, but how do we build on that investment and make sure that children not only survive to age 5, but that becomes the foundation to support them to continue to thrive into adulthood. And we've shown in Zambia that the integration of these two sectors, health and education, can be a really effective way of doing that. And you're right, it will likely look different in different countries, but for us, it's exciting to think through, to demonstrate the impact and the effectiveness and the value of continuing to support children's health and well-being into adulthood, and B, how do we support governments to do that in their context of breaking down those divides and bringing together these two large ministries and fundamentally connecting schools to the healthcare system. And as we scale, we're seeing more and more value proposition of what that can provide. We didn't anticipate this to be a snake reporting system. And I think that's just scratching the surface in terms of, when you have good flow of information across these two ministries, what that can mean for a country.
Amazing, super inspiring. We're going to be talking with you guys and helping you replicate for years to come. And just thank you for amazing work and joining us today. We're going to switch over to Ricardo, who I giving very little time to talk about the amazing product innovations, but hopefully there's some of these things that Lonnie and Megan and Emmanuel will be launching in Zambia and beyond. Over to Ricardo, and thanks, Lonnie.
Thank you. And thank you, Lonnie, Megan, and Emmanuel. That was absolutely fantastic. Like Lucas has said,
one of the biggest
we're
challenges.
running a little bit. Next slide, so we don't see the video. We're running a little bit late. I'm gonna try and make up for time. Having that said, I think it's a fantastic reason to be late. It was so great to hear you guys. We do have some really interesting product updates lined up. Gonna give it an extra second so the slides come in again. Or do you want me to share? I can try and share. Let me just start the presentation. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my screen. So first things first, I know we've talked about this a few times, but we wanted to give you a quick update around calling. So as we've mentioned last time, we're running a beta program and we're testing calling. It's going fantastic. It's so interesting when you get these features that we've been working on for a while into people's hands and you see what they actually do with them versus what we thought they'd do with them. And yeah, it's been really great. It's going to continue running until July. And then we hope that we can make this available to everyone in the community. This is a pilot program that we're running with Meta. So they're themselves still piloting this and it's still not available to everyone in their community. Then something that you might have noticed if you're using AI in your journeys or in the product in general is that responses are getting better. So a lot of the team has been focused on making the quality of the responses, that specifically the ones that come from OpenAI models, better. So reducing hallucinations, reducing timeouts, making them snappier. None of this requires any change on your side. They've just been getting better and better and better as we're working on this. Something you're seeing here on the right-hand side is a private page right now, which is around surfacing how AI actually constructs these responses. What knowledge did it access? How many tokens did it spend? How long did it take? This is currently being privately tested by us, but if you want early access to this, please let us know here in the chat, and we'll hook you up. Something else that's quite important to us is that, more and more external systems are plugged into Turn, and things that we don't have a lot of control over. However, they're pretty key in actually maintaining a great service for you. So we've started making you aware of problems that might be happening in these things. One of the emails that you might have received is something's wrong with the webhook that you configured, or maybe a template got deactivated by Meta after you scheduled the reminder. So we're proactively improving how we communicate and how we notify you about these things, because we want to minimize any disruption to your services caused by third-party system failures. And a very, very exciting one is that we are going to be releasing a new conversation thread on the inbox soon, completely redesigned from the ground up. We've solved a bunch of problems that we've heard from you in the past. We're making it better, snappier, faster. There's a bunch of new features as well, like infinite scrolling that helps you actually reference the history much, much faster, better label management, support for calling, which is very important for the people who are actually helping us test calling right now. And we're slowly rolling this out because it's such a core part of how many of you work, and we want to make sure that it's completely bug-free and it works exactly as intended. So pretty soon you're going to be able to get access to this. And I just wanted to quickly share a video. Is audio playing?
You might have to add audio on your side, Ricardo.
Okay, I can speak over it. So we have a little toggle on the bottom left that might appear in the next few weeks that enables you to switch between the old inbox and the new inbox. On the new inbox, you can see that the message actions are visible on hover, which makes the inbox much, much cleaner. We've also collapsed a lot of things automatically so that we actually can condense as much information as possible in a single screen, so that it reduces the amount of work your operators have to do to actually read the context of a thread. You can also see here the label management that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more packed into this, and we'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to be on this rollout sooner, again, drop a comment here on the chat, and someone from the team will reach out to you. And finally, last but most definitely not least, we've been working on making it easy to develop multilingual services. So this is going to be shipping next week. When you log into your journeys or into the product, you're going to get a little notification saying that this is now available to you, and all you need to do to actually enable this on your service is to just add any languages that you want to serve your journeys in, and then you go into those journeys and you translate them. I was going to do a demo of this today, but we're way over time, so maybe next town hall, a bit of a cliffhanger. And with this, I'm going to pass it over to Peppa.
Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks so much for giving those product updates. And as you can see, I think we believe at Turn we can get, if we can get 1% better every day on product, we can help you get 1% better on serving the children, the teachers, the patients that you guys will work hard to improve the lives of every day. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who joined today, and obviously a special thank you to Lonnie, to Megan and Manuel, and the whole Healthy Learners team for the work you're doing and for sharing it with this Chat for Impact community today. You really reminded us that health is not just about hospitals or big systems. It's about what happens in classrooms, at home, in communities, and it's about meeting children where they are, removing those barriers before they become a crisis, and building environments where children can truly thrive. And in turn, we believe, chat can be a powerful tool in that journey to help children grow up healthier and more empowered. And even in this uncertain global landscape that we find ourselves today, I think if we all choose to act, to collaborate, and to focus on the next step forward in improving lives, we will be strong together. So as we close today, let's hold on to the theme of World Health Day, healthy beginnings, hopeful futures. Thanks all for being here, and see you at the next town hall.